Mixing together story-rich narrative and 2D puzzle platforming is Where's Samantha, the first game published by Rocket Games, whom I know mainly for making phones and sponsoring motor cars. They're now in the game industry and they've kicked off with style, because Where's Samantha is an absolutely fantastic and charming gaming experience that I was delighted with from beginning to end. So let's explain why, shall we? Where's Samantha owes itself in part to a very specific game in the way how it sorts itself out, and that is Thomas Was Alone. That game was also a 2D platform adventure with little squares all basically diving on top of each other and creating towers so that you could get to the exit, whilst a story unfolded in real time through a narrative, and it was all about friendship and finding self-love and self-respect. Whereas Samantha follows a very similar design in that every level is a page in a storybook, and you get read the storybook, then you experience the level. In each of the level there's loads and loads of letters for you to collect that will then unlock the next page of story if you want it. You don't have to collect all the letters, but if you don't, then you don't experience the story aspect of the game. And the story, narrated by Rufus Hound, is a big part of why this game is so whimsical and cheerful and charming, essentially, because it's a love story, but also one of self-discovery and self-belief from someone who feels like they just blend into the crowd and will never be... Never earn that love that they so desperately desire from the Samantha who's gone missing. Now, onto the actual gameplay mechanics, because this is the most important thing for Where's Samantha. And it's got a really cool twist on weight. So, you play as these stitches, which are small squares of fabric. You start off with the red stitch, which is your main character, and they have a certain weight. You'll then find other dangling pieces of fabric around that will then change the colour and therefore the weight of your stitch. But what that also does in turn is allow you to evolve and devolve your stitch into multiple versions of yourself. So a blue stitch comprises of 2 red stitches. A purple stitch is a red and a blue stitch combined. And once you become one, you can devolve into the other. And then, so you can go from purple to a blue and a red, and then you can devolve that blue to making it being a red to add to your red. So very quickly, where Samantha ends up being a, how do I evolve and devolve to use my weight to get across all of these different traps? Now that could be trapezes that can only move a certain way if you've got weight on it. So you need to match the colour of the trapeze to the colour of your stitch so that the equilibrium kind of works. But it might be that actually you want to be heavier than that to kind of make something move, or to not be blown away by a sock fan, for example, because all of the enemies in this game are like household objects. So if a sock fan is purple, you might need to become the purple version of yourself so that you only get blown a certain way, because if you're a lighter version, either like the blues, the oranges or the reds, then you'll basically be blown too high. And what you'll find is often with these traps is that there's a comb which acts as spikes in the game, like on the top of the tunnel, and then you'll be blown into it and then you'll go back to your checkpoint and you'll need to start again. Where Samantha is crammed full of this type of stuff. And so the puzzles basically revolve around, what do I need to place on, say, a switch to make it to work, and how do I get there in what form? So it might be that you leave one of your red stitches on a red like switch for it to kind of hold something down, but the jumps are too big for you and your blue form to get over, so you might need to devolve the blue into 2 reds, which can jump further and go higher. They'll be able to get across all of the different jumps separately, so you'll need to rotate and do it twice, then merge together as a blue thing to then hit the blue switch, which then lets the other red one kind of come with you. So it's really well thought out, and whilst it won't kind of make you like scratch your brain and be like, oh my god, I'm melting, everything is methodical. And because you have various different ways of doing things, it's like for a process of elimination. You're like, right, I need to get that colour over there. This is how I can do it. There's a few bits of good platforming that go on, specifically around pushing and pulling of switches, which will then like make pencils move across the screen with movable objects. Then there'll be saws that get in your way, so you will need to switch quickly to make sure that whilst you're moving one platform, your other stitch doesn't get chopped up, that kind of thing. And it kind of builds its complexity over the 45 levels. Never to a point where it's hardcore, but it will always kind of keep you on your toes. And the main thing with this is that you'll be collecting letters as you go, because the letters unlock the next story chapter. Now, the story is narrated by Rufus Hound, who is a comedian and presenter. He brings his child story time at night best voice to everything, which is really adorable and cute, and charming and whimsical at the same time. And so you'll actively be looking for all of those letters, and sometimes they'll be a little puzzle in themselves, because if you don't get 100% of the letters in that level, you don't get to hear the next bit of the story. You only unlock the next level, and it's not nearly as fun if you don't have the story to go along for the ride. The stitches handle really well, it's consistent, it's predictable, and once you understand exactly what type of stitch does what, then you start to understand how merging them together will kind of merge their effects together as well. So yeah, just a really well thought out puzzle platformer, great use of physics. I adore the art style as well, and that's where its other homage comes from. I feel like it borrows a little bit from the board game Patchwork, as well as from Sackboy and Little Big Planet. But yeah, it just has that wholesome, nice, gooey and warm inside vibe that I adore with these types of story-driven platformers, and it does the physics stuff so well. Thoroughly recommended. Pick it up now. A written review will be over on higherplayinggames.com very shortly. Until then, hope you find Samantha and find a little bit of love with yourself too. Bye for now. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Plane Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.